name's Travis Bull Johnson. I'm running for Congress against Michelle Fishbach.
There's no money in ending war. There's no money in limiting government. To me, part of what makes America great are our small businesses, our small farms, and that's what's getting squeezed out by the establishment politicians.
That's why I say, raise cattle and not taxes. And my name's Travis Bull Johnson. Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Bull. Welcome to Independent is Power, episode 38. Got a couple things we're going to talk about tonight. First of which is the results of my recent campaign for county commissioner. And then we're going to go back into to talk a little bit about something that happened in the state legislature today, where the DFL basically pulled a bait and switch. And we've been fighting for a while on this change of definition for a major party status in the elections committee. But late last night, I got a message that it was actually going to be passed through the finance committee today, which made absolutely no sense. So we're going to go into that more in a few minutes. But let's first of all talk about my failure to win our county commissioner election this past week. When I decided to run for the county commissioner again, and this was I say again because I originally ran in 2020, it's what got me involved with politics. It was my first race I ran, and it was me against the incumbent. We ran a pretty strong race. The gentleman who was in there, Jerry Jacobson, passed away this past year, so they had a special election to replace him. We went ahead and we filed our paperwork to run again, and blink your eyes, the next minute you knew there was five candidates running for this county commissioner job, and they really were all the longtime locals of the who's who in District 1, Crookston, in Polk County. And immediately you started seeing billboards going up, mailers coming out, and it was at that point I decided to kind of pull back my campaign a little bit. And we were running pretty much based on our name recognition from the congressional run. Because to be honest with you, I just could not keep up with the spending that they were spending on newspaper ads. And then after coming off our congressional race, there wasn't the money there. And I tell you what, we really saw how much of a difference that makes when the results came in this week. I mean, I basically got Hulk smashed. Give you an idea, I had a worse percentage running for local commissioner than I did running for Congress. Now, a part of that may have also had to do with a lot of the local voters for District 1 Polk County probably didn't have the best opinion of my running under legal marijuana now. It was kind of a different demographics than as the county, as the area, as the district as a whole for when you run for congressional. But I mean, at the end of the day, I just didn't put in the effort that was required to run a competitive race. And part of that is, I mean, there's multiple reasons, but at the end of the day, I just didn't put in the legwork that was going to be required to win that election. And we saw the results. I mean, you got to take responsibility for it, and we underperformed because we underperformed when it counted on getting out there and knocking doors and stuff like that. So that's what happened with that. Now let's get on to what happened today. Again, I get a message last night from Patrick Dennis, who's our communications manager with the Constitutional Republic Party. I happened to wake up about 5 o'clock in the morning and just happened to check my phone and see this instant message from him going, "Hey, basically the conference for finance is going to meet at 10 o'clock, and on their agenda is something they called Amendment 92, which is basically redoing the criteria for major party status in Minnesota, going from 5% to 8%. But on top of that, it requires any party that's going to claim major party status has to run a convention in each one of the 8 congressional districts during the election year, as well as over 40 of the local Senate or representative districts. And each one of those offices have to have their own executive committee. So basically, what they're requiring is 50 subunits to be underneath that state party before it would be considered a major party and getting ballot access. The 8% by itself was a very heavy lift. I mean, in 2022, no third party would have met that criteria in a contested race, whether for U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, or governor. Nobody would have made that 8%. So, I mean, they've already raised that to a level that's very, very hard, if not impossible, to meet. But then they threw this other requirement that you have 40 over almost 50 executive committees throughout the state. For an emerging or a new party, that's asking a lot. Okay, I mean, especially when you can't build up that name knowledge because you can't get on the ballot. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, and I was really frustrated that the fact that they threw this on the finance committee, the finance omnibus bill. This is an election issue. It's a blatant violation of the Minnesota Constitution that states basically that each bill can only have one subject. Okay, a major party has nothing to do with finance. It was a blatant violation, and it was basically shoved at the last minute through this conference committee so that the third party did not have a chance to run a organized opposition against it. Was it intentional? By all means. I mean, when you look at the senators that were assigned to this finance committee, when I went down the list, it looked like every one of them were senators that sat on the election committee. This was a blatant, dirty trick, dirty move by people who are up here saying they were looking for an elegant solution. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at one particular senator in mind. I believe it was Senator Westland is her name, who basically said on here, "Hey, this is a bad idea, but I'm going to vote for it anyway." Okay, that shows absolutely no moral courage. That shows no willingness to do what's right. You're saying, yes, it's a bad bill. We could easily do it next session and still have it done in time for 2024, but we're going to push this bad bill through now and hopefully have time to fix it next session. That's basically what she said on recording. Okay. This is the DFL leadership. Okay. These are the dirty games they're playing, but you know what? There's still everybody who's saying, yeah, but they're better than the other side. You know what? They probably are better than the other side, but they're not your best option. Your best options are not being allowed to get on the field because they're playing these freaking games. And Joe Blow, normal Minnesotan, are sitting here not knowing any better. And when they get their choices on their ballot, they look down and go, "Is this the best we can do?" No, we can do better, but you didn't. You stayed home and did not get involved, kept your mouth shut, and they basically excluded any other options. So those are your only options now because you didn't get involved, because you didn't care enough, and they gradually just whittled away at your options, just as they have done your rights over the last 20 years, until you look up and you don't have any rights left, just like you don't have any other options left. You get bad choice A or bad choice B. That's it. But I got news for the DFL. We're not going to take this lying down. We're going to fight this. We're going to fight it legally. We are in talks with our candidate for U.S. Senate. Hopefully, we'll have that finalized by the first week in June. And we're coming for them. I mean, we are not going to sit here and let them do this and let them run us around like this. Okay, we're not sheep. When I talk about the Constitutional Republic Party, the party I helped to form, the party I helped to start, our symbol is the wolf. Okay, we're not sheep. We are going to come back and we're going to fight. We're going to defend ourselves by any ways necessary. So what I am going to ask you to do today is, if you have not already, please go on to our to the Constitutional Republic website. It should be on the banner right now, constitutionalrepublicparty.us, and please make a donation to the party that we can use for our legal fight. Join the party. Okay, there's strength in numbers. That's how we're going to show them how strong we are. But we're going to need those numbers. We're going to need those funds so we can run this legal challenge. I'll put in the legwork. Okay, we'll put in there. We'll be visiting with state offices. We'll be calling Congress people. Okay, we're going to be fighting this, but we can definitely use some help. I'm going to go ahead and cut over here and take a look, see what our comments are. Yay, democracy, purest form of governance. Yeah, right, Luke. I mean, we both know that's BS. The Democrats are here saying that they're all for democracy. They want ranked choice voting because it's the best way that you have a choice, yet they're going to restrict who you get to choose from. This is the kind of crap banana republics do. Okay, they limit to, yes, you have a democracy. You can vote. Everybody can vote. But you only vote for A, B, or C that we chose to give you that option. That's bullshit. Okay, and we have to stand up against it. Thomas Frank, the money in politics is the evil that needs to stop being supported. These same people spending all the money have no shame in wasting your tax dollars or garbage not essential to life. You're absolutely right. Okay, and money is part of the base of this, because over last election, the DFL had to share some of your tax dollars with a third party, the Legal Marijuana Now party, for state auditor, and they didn't like it because they barely won, and they could have really used that extra money that went to the LMN candidate. So this is basically a way of them saying, no, we don't want these people being major party, not only for the ballot access, but if they're not a major party, we don't have to split state taxpayer-funded supplemental election money with them. So again, they're basically doing this so that any of your tax dollars spent on the election is spent on their candidates and not third party or other challengers. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Luke. North Korea has a democratic voting system, and you know what? It's probably about just as effective as ours is right now. So yeah, we have to stand up to this. We have to fight this, okay? And that's what I'm going to ask you to do is stand up here and join us. Okay, let's make this Constitutional Republic Party be heard. One of the things I love about the Constitutional Republic Party is it is by far going to be the biggest tent. Why is it the biggest tent? Because our only requirements is that you honor the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, and you follow what they say. You don't violate the Constitution. As long as you're doing that, you're going to fit within our party guidelines. And you know what? It's going to make some interesting arguments. I'll tell you that now. We had this discussion with somebody the other day. Their argument to me, or their point to me, was, so as long as I support the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, then I'd be green with the Constitutional Republic Party. Yeah. All right. So doesn't the Declaration of Independence basically state that the purpose of the government is to protect the life, liberty, and freedom of its citizens? Yeah. And then he looked at me in the eye and said, okay, why can't we do subsidize, or why can't we do Medicare for all? That's protecting people's lives. That's providing them with the medical attention they need to live their lives. And you look at him and go, you know what? I mean, that is within the Declaration. That was his argument. That was his position of, hey, a Medicare for all would be within the Declaration of Independence. And the U.S. Constitution basically says, you know what? It's not the job of the federal government, but it does not put any restrictions on the ability of having it on a state or on a state level. So I guess if they did want to do something similar to that on a state or local level, they could do so. I mean, if you're running for governor and say you're in Minnesota, this is what we want, could you run under the Constitutional Republic Party? Do you violate the Constitution? No. Can you use what you're doing can you use the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution to back what you're proposing? Yeah. Well, guess what? It fits. So it's going to make some interesting bedfellows. But again, what it's going to allow is our candidates to represent you on what you want. Okay, we don't want them being loyal to the party as much as we want them being loyal to you, because the original Constitution did not foresee the roles political parties are playing today. And while we have to play a political party to have an effect on that, we really wanted to get back to these representatives representing you. That's what's important. That's the only way we're going to save this country. That's the only way we're going to be able to make a difference, is we have to get back to your representative being your representative. And that's who they answer to, not some lobbyist, not some big donor, not some talking political head from a political party, but to you, the voters that they represent. That's what we want to. That's what the Constitutional Republic Party wants to be for you. We want to be that conduit to get us back to representative government, which is again part of the reason why we decided our name was Constitutional Republic Party. A constitutional republic is a government run by the representatives of the people. Do we have a constitutional republic right now? No, because we don't really have representatives of the people. We have representatives who pretend to be from the people. But I mean, I think I agree with that old skit that George Carlin has. I mean, they should be forced to wear their sponsors like NASCAR drivers. Get them out there in a car safety suit with the patches on them, showing Raytheon and everybody else who contributed to their account, so you at least know who they're really representing, because we all know it's not us. Look at the Davy Crockett view of wealth distribution. It should fall on the community and not the government. And and I agree with that. But at the same time, if a community decides to provide it, then they have that option. They have that right. How big is the community? That's a magic question. Is the community the local community? Is it the state? Is it bigger than the state? And that's where our argument gets to now is, yes, it should fall on the community, but when the community makes a decision, what right do they have to make a decision for other members of that community who do not agree with them? Who protects the rights of the individual in those situations? And part of the issue with this comes to, let's take a situation, and let's say we have 100 people in this community, and we all agree that we're going to have a community clinic, medical clinic. We're going to pay $200 a month to that medical clinic, and anybody in our 100-person community in our community is going to be able to go to that clinic. And say 95 of the 100 people agree. So 95 people put that $200 a month into that clinic. One of those 5 who don't gets hurt in a farming accident. Arm almost gets cut off. Is that community going to tell them no? They can't use the clinic because they haven't been making their payments? Would we be human if we did tell them that? So I mean, that's where we run into these issues of the ethics involved of, how do you tell somebody no for a service that could save their life? Those of you who are Christians, how do you say no to that person and still consider yourself a Christian? Say, no, this is a business decision. You were one of the 5 people who said you weren't going to contribute. So we're not going to let you use this, even though it's to save your life. Is that the kind of community that we want? So I mean, but the other option is you force them to pay, and that's not necessarily right either. So where do we draw that line? And that's where we are as a country right now. I wish I had an answer to medical care, because I don't. I mean, it's one of those problems that really vexes me. You look at the money that we pay to okay, if you took all of the profits that went to the health insurance industry every year. That is dollars that are wasted that could have been put into the medical community. I mean, we're paying that for medical, but we're not actually getting any services from it. If you're on something like a Medicare for all, guess what? You eliminate that. You look at the bureaucracies that have to be in part of a hospital to meet all these insurance requirements. Not only that, but the hospital's got to deal with this insurance company. Yes, we want this insurance company because we need X amount of patients. Well, we're going to undercharge them, but guess what? We're going to overcharge everybody else now to make up for undercharging them because we want their patients, because it is a numbers game. We need people in these beds, even if they're not getting the full amount of that beds on a cost, is we need at least something every day. Hospitals are built off of occupancy. So they'd rather get less money for 10 beds and have them all full than have 10 empty beds and not have any money off of that. They'd rather, so that's why they make these deals with the devils, with the insurance company, and say, yes, we're going to take your customers at a loss because we're not going to lose as much as if we didn't have those customers at all, because we still have our fixed income, our fixed expenses. We still have to have that doctor on duty. We still have to pay electricity. We still have to pay for that land. We still have to pay rent. We're going to have to pay these things whether we have patients or not. So they're willing to take those cheap deals, but what they turn around and do is they screw the ones who they haven't made these deals with. That's why when you look at your insurance bill, your syringe or your IV costs $500 for a water and saline solution. And Luke was just commenting on this, say 45% of my pay is in medical that you do not even use. That's why I think it makes sense to have these discussions, Luke, is because how much of our money is being paid onto stuff like that is not being used. But I mean, you have insurance companies who are CEOs making millions and millions of dollars. I would rather that millions and millions of dollars be put directly into the medical systems myself. Although, I mean, I hate the idea of socialized medicine because I've also seen the lines it creates. I've had friends in socialized countries who have to wait 6 months to get a knee surgery. So the question is, where is our answer? Because the system we have right now is not working. So we need to be willing to have these discussions. We need to be willing to sit down here and talk about them and say, hey, what are the options that we have? Because you know what we're doing is not working. Co-op medical, I think, is a great idea, Luke. But the problem is when you start talking about things like CAT scans, okay, you're talking almost $1 million pieces of equipment. How big of a co-op do you have to be able to afford that? And if you don't have that, how good of a medical care can you give? So, but I do think it's the conversations we have to have. Cut the fat. By all means, we have to cut the fat. But the problem is, you know where the fat is? The bureaucracy. Why do we have the bureaucracy? Because we needed to meet government regulations and insurance regulations. So the only place you can cut are those two areas. But how do you do that? Because if you're cutting the Medicare regulations and the paperwork they have to file and justification they have to do, well, now you're opening up your system for possible fraud, because a lot of their regulations are meant to catch abuse. So again, how do we balance that? And I have yet to find the person on any side of the argument who can sit down and say, hey, I've got a good solution. I've got a solution that'll work. And I mean, because again, right now, a lot of people are saying, hey, go socialized medicine. But as I said, I think one hand of me says that might be where we have to go right now, because I don't have another option that would work. But the other side, I fear that when you have socialized medicine, you stop investing money. I mean, because these private companies aren't going to invest the money on new research, new cancer research, new cancer medications. Okay, so if they're not going to do that, now what? Now you're going to have governments spending all the money on research and development for that, and we're growing government, which is the one thing our party does not want to do. Administration overall needs to be cut. I worked with Sanford for a few years. Is a game how insurance is paid out. And Luke, I fully understand. And if you look, and we run into the same situation with education. Over the past 20 years, I want to say the money school spends on administrations have went up 75%, while the amount they pay on teachers have went up 10. Now I'm pulling those numbers out of my ass. So don't quote me on them. But I think if you do look it up, you'll see it is there is a very widespread with a lot more money being spent on administration than ever is on the actual teachers and the education. That's part of where our problem is right now. So, but yes, there need to be incentives for innovation. And I don't see how do you have those incentives for innovation without having the capitalistic system. So I think when it comes to our medical, we are very much at a catch-22. How do we make sure everybody can get the health care that they need? And from on a personal standpoint, I'm in a hypocritical situation to a certain extent because I've pulled 20 years in the Army. I have socialized medicine. The government pays I pay like $500 a year, and that covers my insurance other than some copays. I've got a pacemaker that gets replaced every 7 to 10 years. That's about $100,000. Okay. So for me to come back here and just completely down to talk bad about socialized medicine would also be hypocritical of me because I'm here enjoying the benefits of it. And there are times I sit back and go, man, wouldn't it be nice if everybody had that same situation? They didn't have to worry about that. I've got good friends of mine now who are just, they struggle right now because to pay every medical bill, they've got some medical issues. And for them, it's a constant battle of figuring out, how do we pay for this? How do we get this appointment? Because there's only certain doctors that they can see because of the health plans they're on. And it tears me up to see them going through stuff like this. So it does. Again, it makes us look and go, hey, where is our answers? What is the humane thing to do? What is the right thing to do? I mean, ideally, we love everybody to say, you know what, this is a shared expense. This is something that we voluntarily will all pay for so that we all get taken care of. I would love it to be that type of situation. I don't think it's going to happen. At the same time, I also don't know if I want a situation like Luke was talking about a co-op medical. For those of you who don't know how we've got a lot of Amish communities in our area. And from what I understand, a lot of the ways they work is because they don't have insurance. It's basically community funded. So if somebody has an issue and they need a surgery, it's up to the community to decide whether they're going to pay for that surgery or not. I mean, it's kind of like you have a board determining whether you're going to have that issue taken care of. And what they do look at the community. Okay, if they don't have this surgery, how is it going to affect the community compared to how it does? I mean, it's really a cost benefit impact on healthcare that they have to do. Do we want that type of situation? I mean, because that's basically what a medical co-op is they're going to have to make decisions on, hey, what healthcare do we provide? What options do we have? Or should we have some type of system where we have a co-op medical for minor issues and then an insurance policy maybe that would cover major issues? I don't know. These are all things that I think it's fair to discuss. And within our party, we want to have these discussions. Even if we don't agree with some of them, we have to, if we don't have the answers, we're fools to not look at options. Even if philosophically we don't agree with them, we can never afford to stop looking. So kind of went off on a tangent, as I am prone to do. But hey, I want to thank you guys for joining me again tonight. We'll hopefully see you again next Saturday night, 8 p.m. Same location, either Facebook Live or on YouTube. Please, if you haven't already, come visit us on the Constitutional Republic Party page. Again, that address is going going by the banner right now, which is constitutionalrepublicparty.us. Come on there. Sign up for our newsletter, if nothing else. We're going to start pushing that forward a little bit more. But we can really use some help financially if we want to be able to challenge these bills. And we have to challenge them, because otherwise, if we let them get away with this, they're going to keep doing it again and again and again until we show them they cannot just push us and bully us around without any kind of repercussions. So thanks everybody for tuning in again. Remember, independent is power. This is Bull. Have a great night.